Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast between ZpuX and WhiteRa here on Lost Temple. We have WhiteRa spawning as the teal Protoss player at the 3 o'clock position. Meanwhile, we have ZpuX spawning over here at the 1 o'clock position as the red Zerg. Overlord already on the move will be able to find that it is in fact a close spawn. So we'll see how this really works. It is close spawn for air units, however Zealots and Zerglings will have to run fairly far across the map in order to reach their destination. ZpuX will not have to sacrifice that early drone in order to do some scouting, however, so that will definitely benefit both players realizing where their opponent is. WhiteRa now chrono boosting in order to get that an earlier probe, and also wasting a little bit of that chrono boost's energy. That's a little bit curious. Down here we also have a pylon being placed down by WhiteRa, so WhiteRa most likely gonna drop a gateway in just a moment and then return with those minerals and then perhaps try to scout. So down goes that gateway, gonna return with those minerals, and he may try to scout, or he just may try to leave those units there. Now we see ZpuX now moving out with that single Overlord just hovering in the air, wanting to get as quickly over here in order to figure out what exactly the strategy of WhiteRa is. WhiteRa not going for any sort of proxy cheese, just building a gateway down on this lower ground in order to establish a tighter choke point for his natural expansion. WhiteRa still has not gotten any gas yet, so no gas. Perhaps we'll see a fair number of Zealots. ZpuX now getting the spawning pool, so spawning pool being played down by ZpuX. He can either go into a tier 2 roaches or banelings at this point. WhiteRa now running in with that probe. Drones not coming off the line in order to take it down as that probe continues to move. Overlord now still in the air, offering sight, and you will see this Zealot being chrono boosted and now on his way out in order to be moved. Zerglings now being produced as well, so 4 Zerglings and 1 Queen being produced, and now ZpuX quickly dropping down a Roach Warren and also dropping down an Extractor, which makes sense as the Roaches do require gas in order to be built. 4 Zerglings now out, and now we have a single Peppy the Probe in the base, may get taken down. Single probe down to 10 hit points, trying to make his way out, down to 5 hit points, but he is going to run into contact with a single Zealot, and that Zealot may be able to, oh, very nicely done. So that Zealot, those Zealots were waiting in the brush trying to jump on the Zerglings of ZpuX. However, ZpuX didn't fall for that trap, able to run around with those Zerglings, and those Zealots just may run straight into that base. And if he does in fact do that, this Queen is the only thing that's really in there that can fend off this attack. Zerglings pulling away once again, those Zealots running towards that Queen. Queen gonna get off 1 or 2 hits perhaps, get a couple hits on that Zealot down to 28 hit points, and now we have 3 Zealots against a single Queen, 4 Zerglings, and now continuing to spawn more units. Roaches now on the way out, gonna go ahead and spit that acid onto that Zealot, and those Zealots will be forced to regroup. Those Zealots unable to really engage those Zerglings and those Roaches, as those Zealots need to get within melee range, and it is fairly difficult for Zealots to get within melee range without being focused down by a couple Roaches before it gets within melee range. Zealots down to 35 hit points, down to 27. Zerglings able to just shoot down those units fairly easily, or hit down those units fairly easily. And now we have a little bit of an engagement as now WhiteRa pulling away. Gateway now being placed down, a single gateway, single forge, and a single cybernetics core with only 1 photon cannon. Very sparse buildings for WhiteRa. Cybernetics core now being spat at by these Roaches, and we also have a single photon cannon was trying to take down one of those Roaches as well. Zerglings coming over and now trying to do a little bit of hit and run and try to perhaps delay those Stalkers or those Sentries. Stalkers and Sentries now able to be produced as we now have that Cybernetics core. Roaches coming in trying to, I guess, get a spit on those Zealots. Zealots once again pulling away. Roaches and Zerglings just pulling back, as now we have WhiteRa sitting on a Nexus here, chrono boosting the Stalker in order to get faster Stalkers. WhiteRa sitting on 26 Harvesters compared to ZpuX's 25, so both players fairly even in the worker count. right, while also getting double gas, and as he knows he wants to try to get that gas perhaps for later tech units, perhaps Colossus, perhaps even Stalkers, although I do not expect Stalkers. WhiteRa operating off of a single gateway, but yeah, should be going for more gateways. I've seen WhiteRa go for a 7 gateway with a 1 robotics facility for Immortals, so will we see that again in this Zerg versus Protoss matchup? ZpuX waiting to spawn larva, as the queen just standing there by that layer, or is that no, now upgrading to, upgrading to that layer as we have a hatchery down over here as well. Single spine crawler here, both players just playing it fairly safe. That Stalker able to micro very well, able to get off a couple of hits before those units were able to really capitalize on that distance. So WhiteRa just turning around shooting, able to get some of those units off its back, able to take down one of those Zerglings right there. Wow, 2 creep tumors, both being laid down by the queen and not using the creep tumor ability or spawn creep tumor ability of a creep tumor in order to try to spread out that creep. Perhaps he will try to drop one here and then drop one here. Not 100% sure. Zergling's still trying to figure out what exactly they're doing, activating this Xel'Naga watchtower. Roaches taking down the destructible rocks. And Overlords now spawning creep as well. Army-wise, we have ZpuX sitting at 250, WhiteRa sitting at 625. And both players trying to spawn up, get as many larvae as they can in order to be able to quickly build an army. ZpuX sitting on 200 minerals would be able to build a fair number of roaches, what, 4 roaches in a matter of moments, in addition to a dozen Zerglings or so. Warp gate now still operational, now going into a 4 gate or a 6 gate build. So WhiteRa now operating off of 6 gateways, also getting the weapons upgrade, and this weapon upgrade for those zealots may be the end of it, as those units are going to be so much stronger against those Zerglings. Zerglings taking a fair amount of or losing half their life against a single roach, or Zerglings losing half their life against a single upgraded zealot. Spine crawler now also up in the air, or up further out as base defense. Overlord quickly getting taken down by ZpuX with those sentries. So units once again pulling away, trying to make sure that they are out of harm's way as they're going to do a little bit of an engagement. Immortals now pushing in, and wow, ZpuX just losing units left and right. Force fields being dropped down. Hydralisk trying to do an engagement, but Hydralisk will not be able to fight this off. And I'm going to have to give this game to WhiteRa. WhiteRa is just so far ahead economically that, and he's also done the all-in proxy pylon build, operating off of 7 gateways, that even if somehow ZpuX was able to destroy a lot of this army, within 30 seconds that army would just simply be back. Force field also coming into play to protect the intensity of the flavors. Wow, what am I thinking? I just daydreamed for a moment. Wow, I'm tired. Okay, last cast for the day. Stalkers continuing to fight back. Hydralisk now coming in to focus down these Stalkers. Single sentry still in that fight. Not enough energy for that Guardian Shield, as those Stalkers trying to focus down those Hydralisks. Hydralisks are not... Wow, Hydralisks are not heavy units. However, ZpuX decides to say GG, and I'm a little surprised by that at this portion. ZpuX, however, significantly behind. Those Stalkers are upgraded 1-0, so dealing 11 damage a shot against the 12 damage a shot for ZpuX, and I believe that's really what just gave the game away. He knew that ZpuX was going to be able to continue to warp in more units. I believe he saw ZpuX came in, saw the 5 gateways here and the 6 gateway down here, and based upon the build of WhiteRa, ZpuX knew that he couldn't take it. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this 1v1 here on Lost Temple.